In this lesson, we're going to continue drawing our basic character. Alright, so in the previous lesson, we started drawing a character here using some very basic shapes here in Illustrator, and you know what? We left off with this rectangle right here, and you know, we were going to position this and turn this into the body of our character. Now, notice here that we've been drawing our character sort of at an angle looking down at him, so you know, the laws of perspective tell us that his body is going to have a little bit of visual distortion applied to it. That means we're going to actually see it as smaller down here at the base of his body, near his abdomen or near his hips, and it's going to actually be larger up here near his shoulders. So let's come in here and rotate this shape some, and sort of get that into position here. Now notice that, you know, we're going to resize this rectangle just a little bit to sort of fit with the width of his shoulders, but you know, the base of this rectangle that's opposite his head is actually increasing in size as well, and we need to shrink that down. We just talked about perspective and the laws of perspective and how that needs to be shrunk down in order to obey those laws. And you know, we're going to come over here and grab our free transform tool next. It's right here in your toolbox, and it looks like a little arrow over a square that has dots on it. So I'm going to click on that here. Now this is a pretty similar tool to the selection tool. Now you can actually use it just like the selection tool in transforming a basic shape, sort of similar to that. Let me undo that, but it has so much more really. There's some actual modifier keys that we can press down when we're using this tool that's actually going to change the way that it functions. So we're going to talk about this tool again in upcoming lessons, but I'm just going to go ahead and grab this and start to move this corner piece here, and I'm going to hold down Control Alt and Shift, and I want to show you what happens. So you can see here that we can actually force one end of this rectangle to taper in and sort of reduce the width of it here. So that's exactly what I was wanting to do, to sort of create the illusion of depth here in our character. And you know what, I may actually shrink that down some as well. Let's go ahead and just resize that, and let's go ahead and send that to the back here. And you know, I may come in here at this point and just sort of adjust this just a little bit, tweaking it and rotating it into just the position that I want it to be in. Maybe even make it a little wider so that it fits right with that ellipse. Let's go ahead and click off that. And we'll zoom out here. Alright, so that looks pretty good. So, you know, we've got a flat edge here, so we need to go ahead and create an ellipse here down at the base of this rectangle that's going to sort of create a nice round feel so that it doesn't feel like he's flat down here. So let's go ahead and grab another ellipse here. Let's go ahead and just draw this in. And let's go ahead and use our selection tool to rotate that around some and just drop that into position. Now, I use that little X. If you notice as I'm moving it, there's a little bitty X in the very center of that ellipse, and I'm using that to line that up sort of right with that edge of the rectangle. So that's exactly where I wanted it to be. Let's go ahead and just zoom in on that and resize that so that it fits right into that space at the base of this rectangle. May take a little bit of tweaking here, but using those transform controls around our ellipse, we should be able to fit that pretty well into that area. Now I may need to come in, back it up just a little bit here, but that looks pretty good. So we've created sort of the cylinder that's going to be the body of our character. But you know, I really still think his torso is a little bit too long, so maybe I want to go ahead and select both of these two shapes, the rectangle and the ellipse, and I want to be able to maybe use the transform controls on both of those at the same time. So I'm just going to drag what's called a marquee selection around both those shapes just by clicking over here outside those two shapes and dragging a little rectangle around both of them. So they're both selected at the same time. Let's go ahead and just collapse that in just a little bit here. But you know what? That's actually deforming our ellipse. So you know what? Let's go ahead and do this individually. Let's go ahead and select our rectangle. Let's go ahead and just push that in just a little bit more. Let's go ahead and zoom in and grab our ellipse and drag that into position as well. Alright, very good. I think that looks a lot better. You know, our character's still missing quite a bit, though. So, you know, he's missing some facial features, he's missing some arms, you know, and maybe even something down here for legs, or maybe he's flying, maybe he has a jet down here, some sort of a propulsion system. So let's go ahead and just, maybe let's attack his face first here. Let's go ahead and grab our ellipse tool again. Now remember, his head is behind this blue ellipse, so anything we draw here is going to be on top of that blue ellipse right now. I'm just going to come in and draw in another ellipse here for his eye. This is going to be his right eye. So I'm going to go and just reposition that where I want it here. And let's go ahead and make a copy of that by holding down Alt. And again, you can see those two little arrows indicating that if I drag, I can copy that shape. And let's go ahead and just resize that by holding Shift and using the corner transform control. Now we know that his eye furthest away from us is going to be a little bit smaller, maybe a little more narrow, just forming it to the contours of that ellipse that is his head. So I'm going to come over here. You know, maybe these two need to be more of a flesh tone. So let's go ahead and come in here and let's grab our color panel, select our fill color here, and let's go ahead and choose more of a flesh type tone. This is going to be more of a darker tone. This is going to be, maybe we're going to create eye sockets that are sort of inset in his head. So let's come in and drag these in some, maybe get a nice dark orange here with a little bit of blue in it. And that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and copy these two at this point. So with these two items selected, we can go up to Edit and choose Copy. And I want to go ahead and deselect those now. If you were trying to copy those and didn't have them both selected, you can select them by holding down Shift. So let's go ahead and, at this point, let's go ahead and paste the ones we just copied in front of the ones that are already there. So it's a keyboard shortcut Control F. Now if I go ahead and drag these, you can see that we've got two sets of eyes now, which is exactly what I wanted, because I want to go ahead and change the color of these two to black. So I'm going to come over to my swatches panel, and let's choose this black swatch right here. Alright, so we've got those changed to black, and you know, we've actually completely hidden the ones underneath it, so we need to resize these just a little bit. So maybe we hold down Shift and change these so that it feels more like there is a little rim on the inside here. These are like little holes in his head. So let's go ahead and do the same thing over here. Zoom in nice and tight on that, maybe not quite so much. Alright, so that looks pretty good. But you know what? We've got all four of those ellipses now on top of this blue ellipse. So we need to go ahead and hold down our Shift key and select each one of these and move those behind the blue ellipse. You know, that's actually a little tougher. Let's think about an easier way to do that. Maybe we could take this blue ellipse and bring it in front of everything else. You know, we want that to be the frontmost object, so let's go ahead and choose Object, Arrange, with that blue ellipse selected, and choose Bring to Front. Right there. And you can see now his eyes look like they're sitting right on top of his little head. And thinking about what's next on our character here, you know, he doesn't have any arms. So let's go ahead and think about maybe drawing in some arms here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and grab my pen tool. It's right here in your toolbox. It looks like an old quill pen. And I want to come over here and just begin drawing in some arms. Now this tool is actually pretty advanced and there's a lot to it, and we're going to talk about that again in upcoming lessons, but let's go ahead and just click and drag on our canvas here, and you're going to notice that it leaves a little white dot, and as I'm dragging, it's pulling out these little blue handles from that dot. So these are called Bezier handles, and these control the direction of our curve. So I'm going to drop one dot here, and I want to come down here, and I want to drop another one and pull out the handles there, and you can see how that's controlling my curve. Now it's got sort of a wedge-shaped gradient here. That's because we have a fill assigned to that. So, you know, let's go ahead and switch that over to where it's a stroke by clicking that little arrow right there. Let me just go ahead and deselect that here, and let's go ahead and actually get rid of that gradient fill. Let's just go ahead and hit this little red slashed button down below, and let's go ahead and select our stroke and give it a black stroke for right now. And we're going to come in and grab our pen tool again, and let's draw in his other arm. Maybe we pull that out sort of to here. Now this one needs to be repositioned, so I'm going to come over here and you know, maybe I want to grab this little white arrow here and just change the position of these little anchor points that we've drawn. Maybe we want to go ahead and pull these Bezier handles out just a little bit further and change the direction of this curve. I think that's looking pretty good, but you know what, that is actually in front of everything else here, so let's go ahead and send that to the back. And let's go ahead and hold shift and select both arms here, and maybe we want those to be a little bit thicker. You know, if he's going to be a little robot guy, maybe he's got sort of a segmented arm style, so let's go ahead and give him, you know, around maybe, let's bring that up to about an 8-point stroke. Changing the weight here in our stroke panel. And let's go ahead and give it a dashed line. Now I'm going to click this little box right here, and you notice here that these fields below become available. Now we've got numbers here already, a 7-point dash and a 2-point gap, and I think I actually like the way that looks. But these are what control both the gap length and the dash length in this dashed line. So you know, I want to go ahead and maybe change the color of that. Maybe that's a little bit dark. Let's go ahead and drop that to a little lighter gray. And let's grab this arm right here, maybe make sure that that looks like it's on top of everything we've been drawing, and it does. So we've just finished adding a couple of arms to our character here. So we've got a little bit left to go though. I think that, you know, maybe we could do something down here around his hips or his waist, figure out exactly, does he have legs, does he fly with a jet, what's going on down there. So in the next lesson we're going to pick up where we're leaving off here and continue drawing this character.